All right, you got a Jeep Patriot here. It's making a noise. It's a manual transmission. It's making a noise when you let the clutch out, if you can hear. When you press the clutch in, a couple of seconds later, the noise goes away. A lot of people will think that it's your throwout bearing, but throwout bearing will go away as soon as you press the clutch in. This is an input shaft bearing. I'm gonna replace it. I'm gonna make a video on me replacing it and fixing this, but I don't know if you can hear a little better if I open the door. That's the clutch out. There's the clutch in. So what's happening on this transmission, I think it's the T355 Dodge transmission. What's happening, it has a roller bearing on the end of the input shaft, and those rollers get flat spots in them. I mean, those bearings get flat spots in them. They're like ball bearings. So when you let the clutch out, the engine is spinning the input shaft, even like in neutral. It's spinning the input shaft inside the transmission, and it's riding on those bearings. That's why you hear it. And it's a weighted rotation assembly, so there's a lot of weight to it. That's why when you press the clutch in, it takes a few seconds for it to slow down and stop, so you don't hear the noise. If it was a throwout bearing, as soon as you would press the clutch in, the noise would go away right away. And a throwout bearing is a little different sound than this. This is more of a rough, just sounds like loose bearings. Like if you have ever had a fidget spinner and you spin it when the bearings get loose, that kind of noise, that's a similar noise it's making. So I'm about to take this apart and replace the input shaft bearing and make a video. Stay tuned and enjoy. It's a 2012 Jeep Patriot. All right, first thing I do is block the wheels, jack it up, get the tire so it's off the ground. Don't have to remove it. Place the jack stand under your frame part. I let the jack down till the weight is on the jack stand, and I put a little bit of tension back on the jack. This makes it really sturdy. So, okay, next thing I'm going to do is remove the wheel. Take the lug nuts and stick them somewhere where you won't lose them. Get the tire off. So what we're trying to access in here to remove this panel, there's a cover right here on the end of the transmission, and behind that cover is where your bearing is. So I'm going to get that cover removed and get to the bearing. Okay, so I dropped the plastic cover down. There's several 10mm bolts. There's a push pin that goes here. There's supposed to be another one here, but it was missing. So this is the side of the transmission. I'm gonna take this metal plate off. So what I'm gonna do is get a drain pan and put under here, because when I pull that cover off, there's some fluid probably gonna drain out. But right back here, behind this is where that bearing is gonna be for the input shaft. And it feels kind of warm, so that's most likely what it's going to be. Those bolts are 10mm. It looks like these are probably 13. Let me see. That's a 13. Yeah, it's a 13. So I'm going to pull those off. There's a couple bolts up here that I can't pull off with the way it is, so I'll probably use a ratchet wrench to get those bolts out. But Stay tuned, still working on it. Okay, so I got that cover removed, and you can see the metallic material down here from the bearings. You can see in this cover some of the metallic. It's not too bad, but if you look in here, I don't know what this is going on. There's definitely something in here loose. I don't know what that little piece is in there, but the way to get this bearing out, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna knock this dust shield off right here, take the snap ring off, and then I'm gonna get a puller in here. Yeah, oh, look at that. That bearing is shot. This one, not bad. But if you look at this one, look how much that moves. That bearing is shot for sure. So, oh yeah, that's definitely bad. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna knock this dust cover off and get a puller in there to pull this bearing off of here. So stay tuned. So what I did, I removed that dust shield. I just used a pick, large pick, kind of wedge in there like this and kind of pop it out. I removed this snap ring right here. So this bearing is bad. You can see how bad this thing really is. It's pretty bad. So in order to get the puller in here, what I'm gonna do is pop this shield off of here that's holding the bearings. It'll probably fall out. But let's see. You can actually see how bad this is. This definitely should not be moving around like that, but so alright, so let me use two hands to work on this and try to get this out of here. I think. Okay. If you can see that ball bearing right there. Let's see if I can focus on it. See how it's not round? It's all like pitted up and all. That's noise you hear when a ball bearing looks like that. It's got a bunch of little flat spots all over it. So when it rolls, it's very noisy. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to get that shield off of there so I can get a puller in here and here on that side, and then try to get that out of there. So be back to it. Okay, I tore enough of this pieces. It's like a cage for the balls, for the ball bearings. I tore enough of it out so that I can get a puller in here, and in here there's a lip. So I'm gonna grab this like this and pull this bearing out. So just give you a heads up. I did that so that I can move these balls out of the way so I can get a puller in there. I got a good bit of room now. So what I'm gonna do, go get the puller and get it put in there, and I'll make another video of pulling it off. Well, this is the puller that you use. It's got two arms, they're removable. They have bolts in them, so you can take them completely off. And what you do, you move these bearings so that you can get this puller in here like this. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna pull on that inner race. And then what that's gonna do is pull that off of the input shaft. So let me get this all set up and I'll make a video when I pull it out. All right, so I got the puller set up on here to pull this. Now the threads on this wasn't long enough to go straight onto the shaft, so I'll put a socket slightly under the inner diameter of the bearing so that I can push against the socket and give me some more threads to hopefully pull that bearing off of there. So I think I used the 13/16 socket. So now all I gotta do is through this, and it should pull this out. There it comes. There it is. There's the bearing. It's wasn't too hard. There's what we're looking at. It's not too bad in there. I don't see any heat marks or anything, so what I'll do now is clean all that up, get the mating surface cleaned up, and then go ahead and put the new bearing in. But yeah, this is the old bearing right here. So just pulls right out. I got the new bearing right here. Have to go in. Now some people like to change both of these. That's the, I think, the counter shaft bearing, or whatever they call it on these transmissions, but that one doesn't go bad nearly as often as the input shaft, from what I've read and what I've watched. So the way I'm going to get this new one on here, I'm going to heat this up a little bit, the center, very, very, very slightly, not much at all. I'm just going to heat it up a little bit, and then I'm going to tap it on with a socket. You know, I'll put a socket about this diameter of this inner part, something that'll push right against here. You don't want to put something out here because you're going to damage the bearing. So you just want to push this center race. And it has a snap ring around it. And once that snap ring touches, that's how deep you go. So once that gets on, then I'll put that snap ring on. I'm going to get all this silicone cleaned up off the cover and off of here first. That way, when I'm ready to go, I can just put it back together. Stay tuned for some more. All right, before I get started on that, I just want to show you what these ball bearings look like. If you can see, you see my nasty hand too, but see all the pitted marks in those balls? Those are supposed to be perfectly round. That's where the noise starts. When the ball bearings start getting like this, that's where the noise starts. Luckily, none of them seized up, so should be a pretty easy fix. But put them in there. You can see that. See all the pitting on them ball bearings? That's what usually makes noise when you have a ball bearing style bearing. So even roller bearings, they get nicks like that on them. So these are pretty bad, but they stayed intact. They were still rolling. So all right, let me get this done. All right, I got this pretty much cleaned up for where I'm going to put the silicone. Now up here and here, it looked like somebody changed this maybe once before, and there was a lot of silicone right here. Now I'm thinking that fluid needs to flow through this and out this hole into the centers of the shafts. So that could have been an issue. A lot of people over put silicone. They put way too much. You don't need a big huge bead of silicone to seal this. So it's flat surfaces. So I got to clean this up a little bit more. It's pretty clean, but I'm going to clean it up a little bit more and get the bearing in, and then I'll get some silicone on here, put this cover back on. All right, so what I'm doing here, I have this transmission assembly lube. It's just blue, looks like grease. So what I'm doing, I'm going to take some of this lube, I'm going to put it on this shaft where the bearing's going to slide on. That way it'll kind of help it slide on. And don't worry about getting too much because this stuff dissolves in transmission fluid. So I'm going to lube up this whole area. Make sure there's a good bit of lube in here. And then I'm going to put the bearing. Before I put the bearing, I'm not going to put some lube on the center of the bearing. What I'm going to do is take my little propane torch and slightly heat the center of that bearing up, You can't concentrate too much on it, but just to get it a little bit, you know, hot to warm, not real hot, just to help it slide on a little better. So that's what I'm gonna do now, and stay tuned. All right, I didn't really heat it up a whole lot, just a little tiny bit, just to get it kind of on there. And what I'm gonna do, take this socket, this is a 1 1/16", and it fits pretty good around the center. So what I'm gonna do is take this with a hammer and tap it to tap the bearing onto the input shaft. So stay tuned. All right, so I tapped it on, but it gets to the point to where this is flush, and I need to get it past that point so I get the snap ring on. See how that one's on? So what I'm gonna do, this flat punch, I'm going to tap around the edge here till I get it over enough to get that snap ring on. All right, now you can see I got it to where I can get the snap ring on. And what else you're gonna see, the snap ring that's on the bearing, if you look at that notch, it'll bottom out when you know you're deep enough with the bearing. So, and again, don't dwell off and smack it with the hammer, just little taps with a, I got a little 4-pound sledgehammer, and I just kind of tap on it. The weight of the hammer does the rest of the work. You don't have to go hitting it hard. You don't want to make any dents in the material or, you know, damage anything. So be delicate with it, but, you know, a little bit forceful. So let me get the snap ring back on there. I'll apply my silicone, get my cover on, and we'll start it up and see what it sounds like. All right, if you remember in the beginning of the video how much play we had in this bearing, take a look at it now. Nothing. Nothing. No movement whatsoever. This one, nothing. No play whatsoever. So, should be good to go as soon as we get that cover back on. All right, I got it all back together. I forgot to take a video before I put this shield back up, but just gotta hose that shield down and start it up, put the tire back on, see how it is. All right, so we're done. Got it running. Let out on a clutch. Quiet, you don't hear nothing. So that's it. That fix it. Input shaft bearing, very common on these. Very easy to change. Just got to have the right puller and a little bit of tools, and you're good to go. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate all your support. Thank you.